Hello and welcome. I'm Claire Feldman, your host and guide on this journey to thriving in private practice without the burnout. Are you a passionate therapist who's struggling with the entrepreneurial side of things? Do you wish you could serve great fit clients at times that suit you? Are you seeking financial stability so you can continue doing what you love? If so, then you're in the right place. I know firsthand the difficulties of navigating the business aspects of therapy, from building a website to managing social media, but I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Together we'll explore how you can build and grow your dream practice. So let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome to today's podcast episode where we're going to be chatting about the use of AI in our private practices. Now, I am really surprised that I haven't done an episode on this already because I am a user of AI and I know that it can be a real controversial subject within our field. And it was actually just recently that there was a post inside a counselling Facebook community. And really, there was a bit of a kickoff in the counselling Facebook communities about this post. And it was that post that really prompted me to think, actually, this would be a good conversation to bring up for the podcast. My view on it is I can totally understand why AI within our field is controversial and why there is concerns and why there is hesitation around it. But also the reality is AI is here. It's probably not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. So rather than trying to put our heads in the sand and ignore it, let's have conversations about it. Let's understand it. Let's see if this is the big threat that we're seeing it to be. Let's ask the questions and gain understanding rather than just making these assumptions and judgments on it. If you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about in regards to the post, just as a bit of an overview and a lead-in, it was someone within the group had posted in several groups. They'd been working, I'm assuming, with, a digital expert or an AI expert and creating a product, which was a product called B, and B is an AI supervisor. Now, I had seen the post, and when I initially seen the post, I thought, oh, that looks interesting, and I must come back and read more about that. But just from looking at the post, I had made the assumption that this AI tool was basically going to be a supplementary tool that in between sessions with your supervisor that you could go and ask B questions or get guidance around something. And so that was sort of the assumption I had made around it. And then when I came back the next morning, there was just a barrage of comments under this person's post. And I would say probably 80% of the comments were negative. And there was a lot of concerns being raised around the ethics of it, concerns around data protection, around legal compliance, and just around the fact that we would even be considering going down a route of using AI as a supervisor, which I can understand. I can see two perspectives. On one hand, there is the part of me as an AI user. And I would say I probably use AI every day and I ask AI questions every day and it helps me. It helps me with organizing my thoughts. It helps me with creating structure to things that I'm doing. So there is a part of me that thinks that as long as ethically and data protection and all of that sort of stuff was compliant, could this potentially could be a tool that could help me in between my real-time supervision sessions if I'm stuck on something. So I can see that, the pro and the plus for it, but I can totally understand on the other side that we need to really have certainty around the safety and use of it. What we do know certainly about AI is that AI is not a platform that we should be using for our process notes, and we should not be storing any client data or anything like that on it. So we know about those concerns that we should have about its use. But I am working on the assumption the person creating this supervisor tool would be aware of that, would be aware of those concerns, and that there was works and research and steps that were taken in and around that. I don't know. I'm using the word assumption here. So there is a lot of assumptions that are going on. So it was that post where predominantly the response was negative to the introduction of this tool, an AI supervisory tool. As I say, my viewpoint on it was, could this be something that could support you in between your actual supervision sessions? But overwhelmingly, the response from people within the group was negative. It was no. But I suppose for me, what surprised me is that there was a lot of just immediate shutting down and not asking questions or not trying to find out information or not trying to understand. And I don't necessarily think that is great either. I think it's important for us to ask questions and to really understand and to say, is there a place where AI can be integrated and work alongside us in our private practices rather than it just being something that we need to be scared of or that we need to be threatened by or that potentially could end up replacing us. And it's very much a supplement to what I do as opposed to a replacement. So for me, within the use of AI, it's not that I'm necessarily using it so much for clinical stuff. There have been a few things that I have used it for. So for example, recently I gave some instructions around like a guided meditation that I wanted to record. And there were specific things that I wanted to be included in this meditation. I gave instructions around the tone I wanted it to be, the length I wanted it to be, how I wanted the person listening to the guided meditation, how I wanted them to feel. And it produced the most beautiful guided meditation, and the feedback from the client that I recorded it for was like hugely positive. So that was a really positive experience of me using it to support me in my practice. And that's maybe something ordinarily I'd have been on a paid platform buying like a guided meditation script, and AI actually did a much, much better job and obviously free of charge. So that's really the only kind of experience I have of using it in the clinical sort of session for me, and what I imagine for most of you, that if you are using AI, it might be more for helping you in your admin and in your organization, and predominantly in things like maybe your marketing and your social media and content creation. So if you are like me, whenever AI first came out, and it was a bit like a new toy to play around with and experiment with, as someone who is self-diagnosed and awaiting official diagnosis of ADHD, I got super excited about AI because I am somebody who can have so many great ideas and wonderful things that are floating around in my head. And if I tried to put them in writing, it's an absolute shambles, is what comes out. And I can look back at if there's been posts that I've done. I did a post recently on social media on Instagram, a carousel post, and I didn't do it through AI. I just kind of did it impromptu on my phone and created this carousel post and then went back in a couple of hours later. And oh my God, the number of spelling and grammar mistakes was just unbelievable. Now, I know there could be an argument for authenticity and realness, but it was a shocking amount of grammar and spelling mistakes. So for me, like that's where I find AI is so helpful in that I'm giving it the information. It's my thoughts and it's my words and it's my opinions on things, but it just helps me to construct it into something that's more legible for other people to be able to read. And it helps to structure it in maybe a much better way than what I would do myself. So the kind of things that I will use AI for, gosh, predominantly I would say I use it for brainstorming for ideas. So if I'm thinking about running maybe a workshop or I'm looking for ideas around social media content or things like that, I'll use it as a brainstorming tool. It will then also help me with things that if I am running a workshop or if I'm creating something like a free guide or a PDF or things like that, that it will often create the content of that for me. And then I just simply need to go in and tweak it and edit it afterwards. It can help you with things like, say, you produce maybe like your own branded kind of client resources or worksheet or things like that. It can help you with creating all of those sorts of things. The other thing it'll help me with is with my emails. If I'm writing, doing like a newsletter or writing to my email list or anything like that, it will help me with that. And actually, what I should say is for things like my podcast, that when I'm recording my podcast, I use a wonderful platform called Descript. And once I've recorded my podcast, the AI will then, there's built-in AI in Descript that will then draft my show notes for me. It'll produce like a transcript of this episode. It'll suggest a title for the episode. It'll write me a blog post if I want from the podcast recording. It can write me an email to let my email list know about it. So like there are so many aspects. If I was to do all of that manually, like typing up show notes, which is what used to happen, manually typing up show notes or manually doing these things, that would have been a whole day of work trying to do that. Now these things are literally done for me at the touch of a button. So for things like my editing blog or editing my podcast, or for creating content for social media, it has literally reduced the time load of how much time I would normally spend doing these things massively. And I mean massively. I used to use a platform that was a paid platform for AI. And then when I started to experiment and play about with ChatGPT, I discovered that quite often what ChatGPT was actually producing and doing for me was just as good as what the paid for platform was doing. The great thing about ChatGPT is that when you create an account for it, the more that you are using it, it starts to learn more about you, your language, your tone, and how you write things. So it's kind of always evolving and becoming and sounding much more like you. What I would probably, you might be listening to this and you're like, no, don't like it. Nope. And I totally understand that. But for me, I have definitely, and this has just been happening much more recently, even in just in the last few weeks, discovering ways to make AI work for me. So when I first started using AI, I was a person who would have just been typing in, write me a post about X, and then AI would have produced a very random and a very generic post, and I would have just copied and pasted it and then posted it. Or it would have done an email for me or something like that. And I go back now, and if I go back and I look at that content where I was just sort of copying and pasting from AI, I kind of cringe because it's really obvious that it's written by AI. And you can tell now, like, we're not stupid, we're pretty savvy. You can tell when something has just been generated by AI and copied and pasted. What I've discovered much more in the last few weeks is that there are absolutely ways that you can use AI to support you. It can create brilliant content that sounds just like you. So one discovery was actually from a lovely community member, Sharon, that we were in a training session, and she has been on quite a few training courses around AI, and she taught the group how to customize your chat GPT to actually have all of your information, your tone, and everything pre-saved into your account. So I did not know that existed, but you can actually go into the settings on ChatGPT and give ChatGPT a load of information, preset information about you, what you do, what your tone is, your personality, how you write, what your style of writing is. You can go in and actually preset all of that into your custom settings, and you can add in like words that you commonly use and the type of language and words that you wouldn't ordinarily use. Like you can preset all of that in so that ChatGPT knows anytime it's writing content for you that it's taking all of that into consideration. So that was the first, wow, I didn't know that. And that was super, super helpful. And then about 2 weeks ago, I joined a membership, and this membership is focused specifically around content creation and supporting you with content creation. And as part of this membership was given these specific plugins that I could add in to ChatGPT. And basically what these plugins did was asked me a whole series of questions about me, about my business, about my values, about what's important to me, about who I help, what my focus is, what my unique strengths are. And it was loads and loads of questions that I was responding to. And in real time, then, as I'm responding, it forms like a whole profile of me and who I am and what matters to me and how I speak and how I communicate. And then it will actually create suggestions for content, topics, and ideas off the basis of all the information I've given. So my mind was blown by this, because what that has really helped me to understand is that the quality of what AI produces for you is a direct correlation of the information that you give it. So I only feel like now I've been playing about with AI for a good year, at least, probably longer. And I only feel like I'm at the place now where I'm understanding how it actually is a tool that could be incredibly helpful and supportive of me in the business. Now that I have the understanding of the output of information is as good as the input of information. So that's probably something that I would say to you, that if you're seeing posts or you're seeing content or you're seeing things and it looks like it's really obvious that it's been AI generated, it probably has. And that can really put you off, and that can really make you turn away from that kind of that person or that account. But don't let that maybe dishearten you, that there might be ways that you can actually use it to streamline your practice and to make things much, much quicker for you to do. So I have my account, my Chat GPT now is set up with all my preloaded information, with all that information that it asked about me and how I work and my priorities, my focus, and who my ideal client is, and all of that stuff preloaded in, that if I go in now and I say, can you create some social media post ideas around this? And it will give me real ideas and suggestions that are completely spot on. And then I can ask it to expand and actually write the post or write the content for me. And now it's sort of at a stage where a lot of what it's writing is really spot on, and there will need to be kind of minimal editing from me to go in and to change it. So if you are using AI currently, maybe to help you with your social media content, or maybe to help you with writing emails or creating workshops or PDFs or anything like that, if you've just been using it as a generic sort of tool that you've been going in and typing in and asking it to create the stuff for you, then do have a think about, am I using it to the best of the ability that I could be? If you go in and maybe look at some of the content that you're producing as a result of it and you read it objectively, does it sound like you? Is the tone of it, like you? Or can you tell that it's sort of being auto-generated and doesn't sound like you? If that's the case, then definitely think about how can you leverage it to support you a little bit better. And that might be where you can literally almost have a conversation with this platform where you can say, I want you to ask me questions that are going to help you understand exactly who I am, the type of therapist that I am, who I work with, who my ideal client is, what my focus is, that you can ask it to prompt and ask you all those questions. And as a result of that, that it will provide much, much more focused, like laser focused content that really is going to be supportive of you in your private practice. There's probably a million and one other things that it can help you with. I suppose I'm just sharing how I tend to use it, but I'm pretty sure like it could help you around your diary management and appointments, or creating workflows for yourself. There's probably a million and one other ways, and I'm probably only scratching the surface in how it helps and how it supports me. And if you are using it in other amazing ways, I would love to hear what that is. And I know that there will probably still be some people that are listening to me and thinking that there's still no way that you're going to use it, and that you do have concerns about it. And again, I totally understand if you have that point of view, But like I said, for me, it's here, and I'm just going to try and find ways for now to use it to the best of my ability and to the best of its ability. And if it's going to save me so much time on the admin kind of side of it, then for me, it's an absolute no-brainer that I'm going to be using it. And it is something that I think there needs to be more conversation around, there needs to be more training around, and more understanding around, so that we are going into this feeling fully informed and fully aware. And that lovely member, Sharon, that I mentioned, she is actually planning on creating some training specifically for therapists around the use of AI and how to leverage it in a way that feels ethical and that feels authentic as well. So she's actually working on some training. So do keep a little eye out. If you follow me on Instagram, Prosper in Private Practice, whenever she has her workshop ready to go, I will be sharing the details of that, and I'll be sharing it on my email list as well. So that's something that is in the pipeline, because it's better just to get in, to ask these questions, to understand, and most importantly, to find out ways that you can use it to make your life a little bit easier as well. So I hope that has been helpful for you. And yeah, like I said, let's ask the questions, let's understand, but let's not completely dismiss something that there is scope for it to be supportive and to be helpful. And the final thing I think I would just reiterate around AI is that it is only as good as the information that you submit to it. So make sure you're giving it quality instructions, asking quality questions to get the most from it, so that you're not getting these generic, robotic sort of responses coming back. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do get in contact with me. You're always going to find me hanging out on Instagram at Prosper in Private Practice, or you can send me a little email at claire@prosperinprivatepractice.com. And if you're feeling super generous, I would love for you to leave a 5-star review on the account, because it really does help with other therapists then finding my podcast episode. But bye for now, and I will chat to you all soon. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you found the episode helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could share it with other counsellors and therapists in private practice. If you'd like to find out more about me and how I can help you build and grow your private practice, hop on over to my website, which is www.prosperinprivatepractice.com, and you'll also find me on Instagram under the same name. But until next time, I will see you soon. Take care.